It could easily be the song about medical advice for pregnant women, or using bleach inside people's bodies to kill viruses. It could be anything that people will believe. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. My name's John. His name is Andy.
It is.
In in the empty place, the soul stripped bare of skins and heart, and I come apart in your icy hands. I forget my role as I stare into your soul. More on that later. But first, we have a track to listen to. Andy, what have you got for us today?
I have a band that we've listened to once on the channel. I believe you enjoyed the track that I showed you by them. So I thought, we're gonna have to bring these guys to the channel again at some point down the line, and here we are at some point down the line. So I figured it would be a good time for you to revisit Wolf Parade. Do you remember Wolf Parade?
I do.
Cloud
I
Shadow
do.
on the Mountain.
Hmm.
Yes. Yep, that's the track we listened to. Today's track that I'm going to have you give a spin is called I'll Believe in Anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, see how naive you are. Go off and give this thing a go and come back and let me know what your second experience listening to Wolf Parade was like, John.
Will do.
Give me your eyes, I need sunshine. Give me your eyes, I need sunshine. Your blood, your bones, your voice, and your ghost.
Interesting. So start off with that sort of Casio adjacent electronic thing, and then this drum snare, I guess, like reverbed. Um, I instantly got an idea of picture in my head of like children's TV, those old programs to do with space using puppets and cardboard tubes that look like rockets. And then comes your man, along with a nice guitar. Um, and he starts singing, and it all comes back to me that this band did remind me a bit of Modest Mouse, and he is doing. I don't remember his vocals being as much as this before, but this is a real proper Isaac Brock impersonation. Um, it's really quite affected, and like every like fifth, sixth word, which is I know good for me, but yeah. Um, and the drums, they're pounding, and then they're doing these splashes at the end. It's all given a bit of a chaotic feel to it. Um, I'm getting the idea of like an infant school um, parade, and they're all in fancy dress or costume. And for some reason, the kid at the front is definitely Abraham Lincoln, because you always got to have one of those, haven't you? That's the kind of thing I'm getting in my head. There's nothing to do with the song, obviously, but there you go.
We both been very brave, walk around with both legs. Quite a scary day, we both pull the tricks out of our sleeves. But I believe in anything, you believe in anything. I said, I believe in anything, and you believe in anything.
Okay, so yeah, I noticed the guitars sort of mimicking the vocal melody for a bit. And then I think that was perhaps the chorus. He says, I'll believe in anything, you'll believe in anything. And I don't know whether that is, I don't know if this is a relationship song, If it is, that could be hopeful, or it could be quite damning. If you believe that a relationship should be built on trust and honesty, then saying I'll believe in anything, you'll believe in anything is quite a solid foundation. Who knows? Could be about anything, not necessarily about relationships. It could be about medical advice. Anyway, let's continue.
If I could get the fire out from the wire, I'd share a life and you'd share a life. If I could get the
Drums are
fire out
bouncing
from the
around.
wire, I'd share a life and you'd share a life. If I could get the fire out from the wire, I'd take you where nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn. I said nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn. And I can take another hit from you, and I can take away your trips from you, and I can take away the salt from your eyes, and take away the spin of salt in you, and I can give you my apologies by handing over all the ologies, and I can take away your shaking knees, and I can give you all the olive trees. So look at the trees, look at my face, and look at a place far away from here.
Man, I'm starting to get it now. Yeah, I have to say, didn't go a bundle over the first sort of half of this, and it's slowly dawning on me as they're doing this. This is all building up. It's still it's still chaotic, which I don't really mind too much. I'm only getting bits and pieces. This needs more lessons, clearly. I like the way the drums are bouncing around. It's changing the sort of cadence, and then it sort of he almost yodeled one sort of note, but he says something about take you away, where nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn. And for some reason, I found that quite poignant. I know it's supposed to be a positive, but when you get to that situation in life when nobody knows you, nobody gives a damn, it's not great. It really isn't. It's quite sad. And then there's something, this bit here is just going about all the things you could do, and I didn't catch them all, but there's one line in particular that I could take away this salt from your eyes, I think he said, which is a lovely way of saying I could stop you crying or I could make you happy. It's very poetic, and if I think someone said that to me, I'd be charmed by that. And it's building. We're getting, I think it's a vocal in there, going, "Whoa," and other music, other instruments are coming through, and it just clicked in my head then that this is kind of reminded me of Jeff Mangum Mitchell Coattail's first album on Avery Island. There's that, it's musically, and the instruments a slightly different approach. I mean, you get the feeling they were playing everything they could get their hands on, these obscure instruments, to create this anarchic sound, and it's lo-fi as well, deliberately poor quality, but out of all this sort of scribblings and mess, you get these moments of beauty. And I think this is kind of along the same lines. It's definitely becoming more powerful, and for me more palatable as it goes along. The sort of quirky start, it just kind of annoyed me a little bit, but this is starting to sound much more appealing to my ears.
Walk around with both legs, whisper, scared to
in that bit there, it's I was just like imagine that parade thing from earlier. It's almost like they turn around to look at their parents and they're just walking into the backs of each other. It almost completely falls over there. That's quite funny. I just can listen to that bit again. Just get back a little bit more.
Very brave, walk around with both legs. Whenever scared to pull the tricks out of our sleeves. But I believe in anything, and you believe in anything. If I could take the fire out from the wire, I'd share a life and you'd share a life. If I could take the fire out from the wire, I'd share a life and you'd share a life. If I could take the fire out from the wire, I'd take you where nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn. I said nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn. I said nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn either way. About your blood, your bones, your voice, your goons, because nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn either way. You know I believe in anything and you believe in anything, because nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn either way.
I really enjoyed that last third quarter. Yeah, it suddenly became a lot clearer. The sort of background noise dropped, didn't it, one bit? And the guitars were much purer, and they even dialed back a bit in the Isaac Brock stuff. So it was a lot clearer. And I caught a lot of the lyrics towards the end. Try to scribble some of them down. But yeah, it became clearer. This wasn't. It's almost like this is a proposal. Not marriage proposal, but a proposal of what could be. And I guess as long as I believe in anything, you'll believe in anything. It just means believing in a future. And I don't know what their situation is. That it's so fucked that they have to do that. But yeah, I caught the bit. If I could take the fire out from the wire, I'd share a life and you'd share a life, which is really sweet. And I wish I knew what the fire in the wire was. I think the wire in the blood, but it's nothing to do with catching serial killers. Um, yeah, but it's that last bit, especially, was almost like a canter. It wasn't quite a gallop, but again, almost triumphant. Um, Going back to that sort of procession image. Yeah, yeah, really interesting. Wasn't buying into it at the start, but yeah, it turned my thinking around towards the end. So yeah, interesting. Um, we need to go back and chat this up with Andy, so let's do just that.
All right. So you're back from listening to I'll Believe in Anything. Tell me, John, do you believe in this song?
Later. Interesting. Thumbnail is the album cover, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's the only Wolf Parade album that I have listened to. I
Oh,
apologies to Queen Mary, something like that.
yeah.
First track, You Are a Runner and I Am My Father's Son, which I really liked. And then I remember it's either the second or the third track I just really didn't like, and I kind of gave up after that. So I don't think this is any of those three songs, pretty sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just interesting. So
I'm
open to
surprised. I don't know if I'm not remembering or if I didn't know that you had actually given this album, or at least a small snippet of it, it sounds like, a spin.
I think I listened to the whole album. I'm not 100% sure, but I certainly don't remember it. I do remember like 2 tracks in or 3 tracks in going, oh, this is pissing me off. And so I probably didn't give the rest of it a decent listen if I did, There you go.
Okay.
hence here we are today. So it opens with these keyboards, which I will call Casio adjacent.
Mm.
Um, they're making me think of children's TV shows from yesteryear involving space and puppets and painted cardboard tubes for rockets. Um, I seem to remember getting Jerry Anderson vibes from the previous track that you gave me by them as well. But
Mm.
anyway, in comes this tub thumping drum, slightly reverbed, and then this guitar, and the president of the regional Isaac Brock Appreciation Society needs to join us as well. I do remember as well hearing elements and commenting on elements of Modest Mouse in the previous track, but I will not mention them anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
well, I probably will when I get into my part, so it's totally fine.
so the pounding drums and the guitar, um, and there's the odd like, splash as well, and it all gives this image in my mind of a chaotic infant school um, sort of pupils parade. Um, and they're all like in homemade costumes that their parents have helped them do. And they're all like about sort of 4, 5, 6 years old. And the one right at the front is Abraham Lincoln, because there's always an Abraham Lincoln, is what it
Of
is.
course.
So that's what I'm getting in my mind's eye, this sound. I'm only getting the odd words because of his quite affected delivery. Eyes, sunshine, blood, bones, ghost. I put them all together and I think, Buffy? No. Anyway, the scanning changes for a line, and we sort of throws it, all together, which is quite pleasing sonically. Something about tricks and sleeves, and then he repeats the title line. I think he shifts. Yeah, he does. He shifts from "I'll believe in anything" to "You'll believe in anything," and it made me think. Again, I've not got enough data at this point, but if this is a relationship song, that's either very hopeful or quite a damning line. And people often say that relationships are built on trust and honesty, and saying you'll believe anything isn't really a great foundation. But moving on, it could easily be this song about medical advice for pregnant women, or using bleach inside people's bodies to kill viruses. It could be anything that people will believe. So the next passage says something about getting the fire out. The drums here sort of pound, but also bounce around the vocal cadence as well, almost mimicking. It's really quite pleasing. And then he yodels the line, "Nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn." And he kind of repeats that. And amongst all the chaotic sounds, I actually found that quite poignant. And it may be
Yeah.
the context is wrong, but I was like, wow, that's really sad. I think you get to a stage in your life where no one knows you and no one gives a damn. That is really quite sad. So the next verse, I think, is the verse. The narrator declares several acts that he can do for the subject, all starting with "I could do this, I could do that." Again, hard to get some of them, but I could take away the salt from your eyes, which I think is a lovely way of saying I could stop you crying, or even
Mhm.
shorten that, I could make you happy. But yeah, it was really nice. And there's also something about apologies and olive trees, which is a pleasing rhyme, if nothing else. Doesn't make much sense. But yeah, I get that point there was a bit of a turning point for me in the song, to be fair. So there's another instrument which joins in the mix, and then it sort of clicks in my head that this is a bit like it's a little bit like Neutral Milk Hotel, Jeff Mangum's first album on Avery Island, in that it's this mixture of disordered sounds, seemingly a bit turbulent and anarchic, but occasionally the mist clear to reveal beauty. And I'm not quite there with this song as I am with on Avery Island, but I'm getting the some of the sort of thought behind it, the process behind it, which makes me start to appreciate it a bit more. Because up to this point I was a bit, nah. Um, we then get the repetition of Sunshine Eyes blood section, and this sounds way fuller in sound this time, and there's a curious triumphant swagger to that parade now. There's backing vocals and huge cymbal crashes left, right, and center. Yeah, they then repeat the "I'll you believe" lines again. And then towards the end of this, there's the musical equivalent of, we go back to this infant parade thing again, of the kids sort of turning round, catch their parents' eyes and not really looking where they're going, and they almost crash into each at the back of each other. The music almost falls over completely at one point. It almost clatters, but they catch it and it quickly moves on to another repeated section. So I found that was quite funny and endearing.
Well, it also kind of aligns with that like flirting with anarchy sound that you had described. You know,
Yes,
it's bordering on that.
definitely, definitely. But they keep it going, and then they repeat some of these sections, and for some reason, some of the which I now think of like almost noise clears away.
Hmm.
He even dials down his Isaac Brock effect, and we get, if I could take the fire out from the wire, I'd share a life, and you'd share a life. Um, it's really interesting. So I'm not quite sure fire out of wire what that means, but this seems like this is a proposal, um, not a marriage proposal, but a
Yeah,
proposal like a
proposition. Yeah.
vision of what the future could look like, and perhaps if they could believe enough, it could happen. Um, so yeah, as I say, we then go, it's all dialed down, so it's a lot clearer. And I'm actually discerning a lot more words. And we get into the music becomes almost like a processional canter. It's not a gallop, but it's getting there for the last furlong of the song. And the lyrics are 10 times clearer. He said, I said, nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn either way, which is, a bit clarification of what I heard before. And then that very first bit about your blood, your bones, your voice, and your ghost, which is really interesting. And then he repeats the title bit, no, but um, and the nobody knows parts, and then we're finished. Um, I would say the last third to a quarter of the song really builds, and I slowly warmed through that bit to thoroughly enjoying that last section a lot. I really liked, it's quite strange because I'm sure this is, counterintuitive, but I really like this feeling of positivity that came out of the last part of it. And the clarity towards the end sort of made it pay off for me a bit more. Um, Particularly that guitar coming in towards the last section with that simple riff that was just going through. All of these things. It needs a lot more lessons from me to really appreciate the whole thing, and there's loads that I missed because there were certain ideas that like my brain was more occupied with. But yeah, so I went from like not being that impressed to actually really enjoying it. So there you
Yeah.
go, all in one song. So yeah,
Awesome.
really liked it.
I'm really, really glad you like this one. If you or anyone, if there was a gun to my head, and I was told, to assemble a quintessential list of indie rock songs from the 2000s, right? This would undoubtedly be in my top 10 on that list for sure. I absolutely love this song. Um, I'm actually I'm now that I'm sitting here talking to you, I don't even know why I didn't offer it to you before I did Cloud Shadow on the Mountain. I don't know if maybe it was my intuition thinking of what you might like. Maybe at the time we did have a conversation and I thought maybe you were familiar with the first album, and then had forgotten it. I'm not really sure, but this is definitely my favorite track by these guys. And so I'm really stoked to hear that you enjoyed it, as you did. And then sometimes your experience listening to this is even better or in the long run more constructive than immediate gratification within the first 5 to 7 seconds of a song, because there's this, there, there's less of a struggle with those, but sometimes the struggle pays off when there is one, and you end up enjoying that song more than you would something that was just like a 3.5 minute poppy banger that just gets stuck in your head. So I'm glad that you gave it a go, and I'm glad that it grew on you as it played, and that I think that probably suggests that it would grow on you with listens. So I'd be interested to hear more about your take on it if you revisit it down the line. So as mentioned, we've covered the band before on our channel when I had John listen to Cloud Shadow on the Mountain from the band's third album, 2010's Expo 86. So if you want to go check that out, I'll put the link in the description up below. There we go. I knew I was going to get there eventually. And you guys can click on it to check that out. Otherwise, let's jump into what is mostly going to be info about the band around this time period when they released this album. So, during that episode that we talked, that we covered a great deal about the band and their history. So if you want that, again, click on the link. Wolf Parade is a Canadian indie rock band formed in 2003 in Montreal. The band released 3 full-length albums before taking a 5-year hiatus in 2011. The band consists of Dan Beckner, vocals, guitar, Spencer Krug, piano, keyboards, vocals, and also of Sunset Rubdown, Swan Lake, Frog Eyes, and Fifth of Seven fame. If you've, I know we've covered at least we did Swan Lake, didn't we?
Don't remember.
I think we did. I know for a certain we did. For certain we did Sunset Rubdown. We are like
Yes.
3 years into this, so forgive us if we don't. These all don't come immediately back to mind. But I knew we had done other Spencer Krug stuff on this channel for sure. I think we both really enjoyed Sunset Rubdown. Um,
Yeah, the name rings a bell.
yeah,
Definitely. Oh,
yeah.
Spencer Krug, I mean. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So yeah, there are also Arlen Thompson on drums and Haji Bakara on keyboards and electronics. They announced their return in 2016, releasing a self-titled EP in May of that year, a fourth studio album, Cry Cry Cry, in October of 2017, and their fifth studio album, Thin Mind, was released January 24th of 2020. So in total, the band has released 5 studio albums, but it's worth noting that the band has a penchant for releasing self-titled EPs from time to time, as noted just a moment ago. In fact, the band has dropped 4 of them in total. One in 2003, one the following year in 2024, again, or in 2004, forgive me, again in 2005, and another one after they reunited, as I just mentioned, in 2016. The track I had you listen to today, John, I'll Believe in Anything, is actually a reworked and more successful version of a track by the same name originally recorded by Sunset Rubdown, which as long as I've known this song, I was not aware that it was originally a Sunset Rubdown track that obviously they've changed a bit. Crew did and reworked for Wolf Parade. So it was featured on their debut album, Apologies to the Queen Mary, as John mentioned, having listened to some time ago earlier in this episode. And it was produced by Modest Mouse frontman Isaac Brock. So there is a more direct correlation. And it was released on the Seattle indie label, just an absolute treasure of a record label there for a while, Sub Pop, on September 27th, 2005. Songwriting and vocals are split on the album between guitarist Dan Beckner and keyboardist Spencer Krug. I think we discussed that earlier, and if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not, I'm pretty fairly certain actually. The Cloud Shadow on the Mountain was Krug, so is this. I tend to gravitate more towards Krug's oddball, very distinct, maybe in a similar way that I gravitate towards Isaac Brock, as you were quick to point out the similarities between them. So, according to interviews with the band, the album is named after an incident in which the band was removed from an ocean liner, the Queen Mary, for breaking down the door of a ballroom and staging a violent seance. And Martin Douglas of KEXP would write, Wolf Parade's debut album title is a sorry and a shrug to the attraction proverbial tongues planted firmly in cheek. The RMS Queen Mary is otherwise unmentioned throughout Apologies to the Queen Mary, a total inside joke, unless the anecdotes about them trying to summon ghosts aren't rock star myth-making bullshit, which methinks they are. Apologies to the Queen Mary is widely considered one of the most influential indie rock albums of the 2000s. As a result of the rave reception of the album, many music magazines feature Apologies to the Queen Mary in their best albums of the decade lists. The album achieved a score of 83 out of 100 on Metacritic, and it appeared in the Canadian edition of Time magazine's list of Canada's most anticipated indie albums of the year, and was shortlisted for the 2006 Polaris Music Prize. Online music magazine Pitchfork, go ahead, John, there we are, placed Apologies to the Queen Mary at number 89 on their list of the top 200 albums of the 2000s, and placed I'll Believe in Anything at number 95 on their list of the top 500 tracks of the same decade. Coke Machine Glow named the record the fifth greatest album of the 2000s. LAS magazine placed it at the spot number 38 of the greatest records from 2000 to 2009, while Stylus magazine and Pop Matters placed it on the number 19 and number 16 spots on their best albums of 2005 lists, respectively. It was also featured on the list of No Ripcord, taking the number 12 spot overall. Brandon Stassoy of channel favorite Pitchfork reviewed the album and wrote, "There's no question the lonesome crowded sound is here." So he heard some of what you heard, John. And probably what most people hear if they've heard both bands. But when Wolf Parade dig in and dust off their influences, the band rolls like a Ritalin-deprived Power Bowie or 70s Eno flexing piano-based hooks over pixified rhythms. So, Jesus Christ, Bowie, Eno, and the Pixies all in one, John. The trifecta for you, I think. Component ingredients include electronics, keyboards, guitar, drums, and two spastically surging, forever tuneful vocalists, Dan Beckner and Spencer Krug. And the aforementioned Martin Douglas of KEXP, who I mentioned a moment ago, would write in his recent article celebrating the 25th anniversary of the album, "Of course, as with most retrospective reviews, we know how the story goes. Wolf Parade puts out a few more albums, goes on hiatus, and reunites. Beckner and Krug form other bands of varying degrees of artistic and spiritual success, most notably the former fronting the Pretty Good Handsome Furs, and the latter writing songs for the downright heroic Sunset Rubdown. But Apologies to the Queen Mary still stands as the calling card for all the musicians who participate in Wolf Parade. Truly one of the best indie rock records of its generation." P.K. White of Mellophobe Music wrote the following: "Underappreciated and largely unnoticed upon release, Apologies to the Queen Mary is as one of the finest indie rock albums of the 21st century. The debut release from Canadian rockers Wolf Parade, produced by Modest Mouse's Isaac Brock, will not chart in the Great White North despite the backing of Sub Pop, one of the premier indie labels of the time. Over time, Queen Mary gradually made its mark within narrow indie circles. As the years pass, the album has increasingly been recognized as influential among subsequent indie rock bands, with almost all retrospective reviews praising its significance. At Mellophobe, we've declared Apologies to the Queen Mary the 33rd greatest indie rock album of all time, ranking just ahead of Fever to Tell by Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Adding of this track, on the LP's 12 tracks, seemingly only one has gained a respectable amount of notoriety over the years. Often recognized as Wolf Parade's signature song, especially among Canadian audiences, is a Spencer Krug creation, I'll Believe in Anything, which frequents indie rock playlists alongside what's left of indie radio. The powerful track is the perfect mix of chaos, resolution, and fanfare, like whales, putting Krug's vocal power and uniqueness on display in a way no other Wolf Parade song has in the 20 years since. The song is as moving as it is thunderous, loud, loud, loud. The louder, the better for these guys." All right, let's jump into these lyrics. "Give me your eyes, I need sunshine. Give me your eyes, I need sunshine. Your blood, your bones, your voice, and your ghost. We've both been very brave, walk around with both legs, fight for the scary day. We both pull the tricks out of our sleeves, but I'll believe in anything, and you'll believe in anything. And I said I'll believe in anything, and you'll believe in anything. If I could get the fire out from the wire, I'd share a life, and you'd share a life. If I could take the fire out from the wire, I'd share a life, and you'd share a life. And if I could take the fire out from the wire, I'd take you where nobody knows you, and nobody gives a damn. And I said nobody knows you, and nobody gives a damn. And I could take another hit for you, and I could take away your trips from you, and I could take away that salt from your eyes, and I could take away what's been assaulting you, and I could give you my apologies, my handling, or pardon, my handing over the olive trees, and I could take away the shaking knees, and I could give you all the olive trees. Oh, I took, oh, I look at the trees and look at my face, and I look at the place far away from here. So give me your eyes. I need sunshine. Give me your eyes. I need sunshine. Your blood, your bones, your voice, and your ghosts. We've both been very brave, walk with both legs, fight the scary day. We both pull the tricks out of our sleeves, but I'll believe in anything and you'll believe in anything. If I could, I'd take the fire out from the wire. I'd share a life and you'd share a life. I'd take the fire out from the wire. I'd share a life and you'd share a life. And I could take the fire out from I could take the fire out from the wire. I'd take you where nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn. I said nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn. I said nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn either way. About your blood, your bones, your voice, and your ghost. Nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn either way. And you know I'll believe in anything and you'll believe in anything because nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn either way. So, Lynette Manrique wrote of the song in her 2020 article entitled Wolf Parade's Apologies to the Queen Mary Turns 15. It's not hyperbolic to say that I'll Believe in Anything is one of the greatest songs of the 2000s that helped solidify Apologies to the Queen Mary as an indie rock classic. I'll Believe in Anything is the one song that makes all fans lose their shit at a Wolf Parade show. It's the one song that sends a rush of blood to your body and makes your chest swell as you belt out the memorable chorus. And now I'll believe in anything, and you'll believe in anything because nobody knows you and nobody gives a damn either way. I'll Believe in Anything is a desperate love song, a cry for a connection, and a meditation on identity and insignificance. It oscillates between yearning devotion and crushing existential loneliness. Lyrically raw, emotionally volcanic, and musically cathartic, it's one of the band's most beloved songs, and for good reason. It captures what it means to love someone deeply while feeling the rest of the world is collapsing or simply doesn't care. So, there you have it, John. I'll Believe in Anything by Wolf Parade. I really do hope that you go give this song another go and maybe even the album, if you still have it, that is. I'm not sure. But I would say it's definitely worth revisiting. But hey, different courses for different horses. So if you don't, that's perfectly all right. I appreciate you giving it a go either way.
I'll definitely listen to this song again. And it's a while since I've listened to that first one as well.
Yeah.
On the Renaissance, blah 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 So yeah, might do. We'll see.
Okay.
If that third or whatever song it is pisses me off again, then no, I won't. But
Okay. Just know that it is a hurdle that leads to more songs on the other side that you might
yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah.
Who knows what
No,
song 4 and beyond has in store for you? Oh my. Well, honestly, man, really appreciate you giving this a go. I'm glad that it grew on you as you listened
yeah,
to it.
definitely, definitely.
Awesome. Guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know your thoughts on this band, this track, the album, any other albums by them that we should check out, or other tracks that we should have John go off and give a listen to by these guys. Also, more Sunset Rubdown or any of the, Handsome Furs, any of these other bands that these guys have gone on to drum up. I don't think we've done a great deal by them. I know that I've never really sought out any of their stuff outside of Wolf Parade, which was kind of a shame on me moment, given how much I did like the Sunset Rubdown track, and I just like Krug's voice in general. So, yeah, please shout out any or all of those things down below in the comments field. We love hearing from you guys. Also, please, if you haven't, like, share, and or subscribe. It goes a long way to help us over here at the channel, and it only costs you a couple seconds of your time, and we really do appreciate it. Also, any tracks that you guys want us to check out by you, they get featured on our Friday episodes if you're not aware. So any other artists or tracks, feel free to shout them down there. We collate them, and we will add them to that Friday list. And hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.